that's what I wanted. That's what I yearned for. I wanted my father to be there with my mother to raise me. Why I'm hurting like this? Why am I feeling like this? And I just dropped my fork. I lost my appetite because I couldn't, in my mind, I could not wrap around my head. What is the reasoning behind you listening to me on the telephone?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Fireside Chat. We have Teresa Snipes and Adriene Odom.
Welcome back to Watch My Feet's Fireside Chat series. My name is Teresa Snipes and I'm the founder of WatchMyFeet.org. It is an organization dedicated to uplifting, inspiring, and helping people to move into alignment with their purpose. And tonight, we have a powerful story of survival with Adriene S. Odom. Adriene is the author of Making of a Soldier, and she is the CEO of Career Growth After Domestic Abuse. Adriene's purpose is to help domestic abuse survivors reignite their careers to live their best lives. And tonight, she's going to talk to us about her book, The Making of a Soldier. She's going to reveal some of her deepest and darkest secrets. But more importantly, she's going to show us how to become soldiers over our own life's circumstances. So everyone, welcome Adriene S. Odom. And I have to say, this was not planned.
It was definitely
So we are in alignment. I'm going to take that as such.
I take it as such as well.
Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
I read your book, obviously, and I must say the very first page in the book was a dedication. And when I read that, I knew immediately that what you were doing with your book was the same thing I am trying to do with this platform. Wow. So I wanted to read this to you just so you guys can really get a feel of the dedication and why this is all here. So it says, "It is my prayer that you will allow what God has to say to enter into your hearts so that your mind can be renewed. The Making of a Soldier is also dedicated to the brave women and what they are enduring that no one even has an idea about. They are the women who smile and make you laugh, but are in despair and agony. They are the women who provide hope and encouragement to everyone else, yet pleading and begging for someone to help them. They are the women who are near death, and the only way for them to survive is God has to set them free from bondage. They are the women like you, I, them, we, and us, who have a story to tell." And that is exactly, to a T, why I created this platform.
Wow.
We all have a story to tell.
Correct.
So you speak about bondage in your dedication. Can you tell us what you meant by that?
What I meant by that, being a teenage mother, a single mom, trying to make ends meet, being in one bad relationship after another bad relationship, it can cause, well, I'm not going to say it can cause, it caused me to feel like I was in bondage and there was no way to break free from these traps that I have found myself in. Mm-hmm. Like it just felt like I was stuck right at the place where I was at that moment in my life. Mm-hmm. So when I say bondage, that's what I mean. It felt like
you couldn't move.
Like it was almost like I was stuck there. Like, you know, you can't. It's like you're fighting, you're doing everything that you possibly can to stay afloat, to stay above water, mm-hmm. to maintain a roof over your children's head, to make sure that you just do everything within your power to be the best mom that you can be. But for me, it was even harder because I was a high school dropout. Mm-hmm. Dropped out of high school in 10th grade. So of course, before I went back to school to get my GED, it was even harder for me to even find a job that paid anything,
Right.
you know, to
So
really survive.
and when I read your book, I felt like every time you tried to take that step, you got knocked back down.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a truly bondage. And I would say, even for the women in the room, sometimes bondage isn't as far as that. Sometimes bondage is fear, right? You're trying to do something,
Yeah.
you have a purpose, but then the fear holds you back. So that's bondage there. So it can come at all different levels.
Exactly.
So that I think that's true for a lot of women.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, the earliest memory you take us back to is 4 years old.
Okay.
And I wanted to read something about that memory.
Okay.
You talk about your father,
Okay.
and you talk about how he passed. Can you actually share that with the audience?
How he passed or what?
How he passed.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My father was killed in an automobile accident. Well, he didn't actually die in the car. He died on the way to the hospital after the accident, from my understanding. For me, being an only child and being a girl only child and losing my father was hard. It was almost like a emptiness, like a hole there. Even at 4 and seeing him in his casket, it was still heart-wrenching for me. It was like I was always searching for whatever it was that I thought I was missing from him.
Yeah, because you mentioned I was just about 4 years old at the time. Daddy left home one day and never came back. It was just like he vanished without a trace of me ever becoming to know him or the wisdom that he would share with me. The absence of a father is a daughter's in a daughter's life is so painful.
It's very, very painful. And let me just say that it causes, for me, it caused me to end up in a lot of bad relationships, abusive relationships.
Why do you think so? Because
a part of me, I wanted to have my children. I wanted to have a father figure. I wanted to be mom, dad, children, you know, like a normal family.
The dream, right?
Yes, because that's what I wanted. That's what I yearned for. I wanted my father to be there with my mother to raise me. You know, I felt like I went through different parts in my life. I was very, very angry with him for so long, you know, and until I brought closure to that, it was really difficult. And I went after men that I thought would fit the description of my father, if that makes sense, from the stories that I had been told about him.
Wow.
So I went looking for this man that was going to be like a father figure or close to what my father was.
Interesting. So, because in the book you also talk about how you believed so deeply that if he was there, if he was here, he would have saved you.
And that's how I felt.
Yeah. So you were trying to recreate that.
I was.
And what you thought, the memory, what people had told you.
Yes.
So you were trying to recreate that. And
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. What would you say to women who use their kids as a weapon to their fathers? Meaning, you know, they're not happy with maybe the child's father, and so they keep the child away from him. Because I've seen those situations happen where they use it as a weapon. I mean, what would you say to that mother who has that little girl and she won't even let the father see?
I would say that she's dead wrong.
Yeah.
Even myself, even being a single parent myself, and my children's fathers, like I told you before, previously, they're deceased now, but even growing up, and they were not active participants in my children's lives for most of their life. But I always made sure my children knew to love and respect their fathers, regardless of what they did, regardless of them not being there, regardless of what happened between me and them. My children had nothing to do with it, you know. And I wanted my children to always love and respect their fathers and forgive them. Not for their fathers, but for them. Because I thoroughly believe that in order for God to bless them, they cannot carry that unforgiveness around with them. And I had to own my stuff too, you know, because I was angry myself, because I wanted to still be involved with them, and I'm not afraid to say that, you know. And I think a lot of women, instead of them being authentic and say, I'm still in love with you, I still want you, you know, blah, 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 they take the children and they use these children as pawns. You see what I'm saying? And it's not it's not even us, the adults, that's been affected. It's the children
that's been affected.
That's been affected, because that's something that I had to do myself.
Right.
Once I went into the domestic violence shelter and came out and went to the Army and things started to change for me, I had to go back to my children myself, and I had to ask them for forgiveness.
Right.
Because I made a lot of selfish decisions based upon what I wanted.
Absolutely. And I think what we fail to realize is that the child's relationship with the parent is just that. It's not your relationship with whoever that person is. And so you have to respect the fact that they have their own life to live. They may need something totally different from that parent, and may get that from the parent. So we can't step in the way of that.
Saying that, as I had mentioned to you all previously, that I am newly divorced. My husband has primary custody of my son. We have joint shared custody of my 6-year-old. And it's still hard for me to even speak about it now, because I'm at a place where I feel like God has me just being silent. Although there's a lot of things that has taken place that has hurt me, I still try to maintain the relationship with my son, regardless of what happened between his father and I. He had nothing to do with the breakup. Now, I'm not going to say that this happened overnight, because I went through some changes these past 2 years. You know, and I will be brutally honest about that. And a lot of the stuff that I went through was anger and hurt.
Right.
In the beginning. You know, and more so anger than anything. But now I'm starting to look at it, and I'm like, well, God, you know, I heard a lot of people say to me, you know, make sure you get the lesson out of this, make sure you get whatever it is you're supposed to get from this, you know, this divorce or the marriage, whatever the case may be. And he brought it back to me. You know, with my older children, I had taken out child support orders for them to pay child support or whatever, and you know, I'm like, well, if they're not going to be here, whatever, they're going to at least take care of them, blah, blah, blah. My way of thinking. So now the shoe is on the other foot. I'm the one paying child support. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, wow. Lesson.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, God, he keeps bringing that back to my remembrance.
Right.
You know, you're now in the place that you have put your children's fathers in the beginning. Right. But I was, 15 when I had my first child, 19 when I had my second child.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
So that's so you're 4, you lose your father, and you create, there's a void there.
Correct.
A lot of women speak about that void where you feel like something is missing, and you spend most of the time trying to fill that void. Let's talk about, and this in the book is when I felt like your life really started to spiral, when you were 14 years old. And you had someone tried to sexually violate you. Yes. Right? And I just want to read that in the book. Let's see. I want to make sure I read this, because this was really heartbreaking to me, but I think you did a good job explaining. So just to set the story here, she's at her grandparents' place, and your grandmother's sick, right? And you say, I heard my grandmother start praying and crying because she was in pain. As I began to excuse myself from the couch to go see her, he called me back abruptly. He motioned for me to come sit beside him, and told me that she would be okay. All I heard were cries that I couldn't get out of my head. There was nothing about what I heard coming from her room that let me know she was going to be okay. I didn't want to make him upset, so I did what he told me to do. I thought nothing of sitting beside him until I felt an uneasiness in the pit of my stomach. Was that the first time?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about who that was in that moment?
Who I was or who he was?
Who he was.
At that moment, he was somebody I didn't even know, because it was he had never done anything like that before.
Who was he? Who was
I'm gonna say my mom's adopted father.
Mm.
I don't like to say grandfather. I don't want to call him by his name because he's now deceased, and I would like to leave him be.
Yes.
Where he is, but I don't know. It was just strange, cause he had one of my closest friends that I was close with in high school. I was just in 9th grade, and he had been listening to my phone calls. Like I didn't even know. Like, he would pick up another phone in the house and he was listening to our phone calls. And every Friday he would go get groceries, and he would come back. When he came back, he would bring us food. So, I got my grandmother settled or whatever, and he and I sat at the kitchen table to eat our salads, because we both had salads. And he said to me, you really need to watch what you say on the telephone. And at that point, when he said that, it was just like my heart dropped, because I'm like, he's basically like violated. Like, I mean, it wasn't nothing that me in 9th grade, what could you say that was
Right.
that was that harmful, like that you would. So I'm sitting there and I'm listening to him tell me word for word conversation that I had on the phone. And I just dropped my fork. I lost my appetite, because I couldn't, in my mind, I could not wrap around my head, what is the reasoning behind you listening to me on the telephone?
Right. So that was kind of the first thing that
started it.
Yeah.
That day. And I was still in shock. That's how I ended up sitting on the vanity. Like, they had like a picture window in the living room. And I was sitting there looking out the window, and I was still trying to wrap my head around what he had just said to me. And I'm like, this ain't no normal grandfather, granddaughter.
Yeah, so that's when you started to just kind of feel something was wrong.
Yeah.
But before that, I mean, did you have any interactions with him, or was it just, kind of passerby?
I mean, we had like, of course, I mean, it wasn't like a bad per se relationship.
But there wasn't really a relationship. It was just he was there, you were there.
Yeah, I mean, he was at that point, he was my grandfather.
Yeah.
I respected him as my grandfather. Did I agree with a lot of the things he did? No, I did not. I mean, but he never had touched me in a manner that he had, like that night before.
So when you sat down and you felt the uneasiness and the pit, I think you described it in your stomach.
Yeah,
what happened?
It was, I can't explain it. Like, when you get really, really scared or really, really nervous or something, your stomach started making like turns, butterflies or whatever. And it was just like I was expecting something to happen. I just felt like this is going somewhere that it does not need to go right now, because this is somebody I don't even know sitting here on this chair. That's what I'm thinking, because I'm like, this has never happened. This is out of the ordinary. And
so what did he do? Did he how far did he go? I guess is what I'm saying.
That night, when I got up to go check on my grandmother, and he told me, no, leave her right there, she'll be all right. He said, come and sit beside me. And when I came to sit down on the chair beside him, he put his arm around me, his right arm around me, and he grabbed my right breast. And when he did that, I was like, yeah, you know, something, you know, it's not right. And so I was sitting there trying to figure out how in the world I was going to get away from him, because I knew as hard as he had grabbed my breast, I couldn't just jerk myself away from him. And I wasn't but yay big. But anyway, I asked him, did he want a piece of fruit? And he said, yeah, he wanted a piece of cantaloupe. And I went in the refrigerator. I went in the kitchen, went in the refrigerator, got the cantaloupe, cut him a piece. But when I went back to give it to him, I stood back from a distance and kind of like held my hand out to give it to him. And he said, I can't eat that with the rind on it. So I went back to the kitchen. I'm like, okay, you know, he playing mind games with me right now. Like, you know, this is what I'm thinking, like, because I could not figure out for the life of me.
But that had to be weird, though, because he's to me, when I read it, it felt like it was the most unlikely person to actually try something like that.
Yeah, because he was granddaddy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
you just don't.
And I can't imagine what that does to a young girl's spirit. Even to what you think about your body and what you just, because you're already going through this thing with your dad and then this happened. So that was in the book. That was the point where I felt like, okay, this is really the downward spiral.
Yes, that's when everything.
And did you tell anyone about it? How did you get out of that?
That night?
Not the night, but just in general, because, did you tell anyone about it, or?
What had happened, or how my life had went down, started to spiral?
About the experience.
Well, my mom at the time was working second shift and was going to school full time. So I would catch the bus to my grandmother's house, which is my mother's mom. And that particular night when she came home, after everything had taken place, I had called one of my friends, and she actually stayed on the phone with me, and I was sitting between the refrigerator and the wall. And when I knew it was time for my mom to come, it was dark in the kitchen. And I came out when I knew, like when I heard everything was quiet, I came out and I sat on the exercise machine, because my grandmother had an exercise machine. My mom came in and she was her normal self. Like, you know, when she would get off work, she would be smiling or telling me about her day. We just always had that kind of night, you know, when she got off work. But that night, she came in the kitchen, turned the light on, and she was like, why are you sitting here in the dark? I'm like, no reason, because I didn't want to tell her there in the house with him, with my grandmother there and all of that. So I was like, I'll just wait till we get home and I'll just tell him. So we were driving home, and Mom was just talking and laughing, going on like a normal night would be for us. And we got to the stop sign where it used to be pointing glass between Danville and Pelham, North Carolina, Danville, Virginia. We got to the stop sign. And Mom said, she looked at me, she said, what's wrong with you? And I told her, I said, Mom, I said, Granddaddy tried to mess with me. And she asked me, what did I mean? And I told her the whole story about what happened. And she told me, she said, well, I'm not going to take you back down there. You know, you won't be going back down there anymore. So I still caught the bus there, but I didn't actually stay there. Gotcha. My cousin would come and we would go to my house, but he still would torment me.
Right.
Like when I got off the bus and stuff, it was still like he played these
constant mind games.
Yes.
Gradually. Just consistently, I guess, if you will. Okay. So that never really stopped as you had to obviously continue to get off the bus there. How long did that go on?
Oh my God.
What would you say?
For months, because it eventually got to a point where I started going to my father's mother's house. And once I started going there, that kind of brought everything to a head.
Good. Yeah. Wow. So I'm gonna change the subject just a bit. So in the book you talk about, you know, just going through that ordeal and just getting to the point where it felt like you started going through things, you know, just that maybe had messed up your thought process and mind, and so a lot of things were happening then. Is that around the point where you started to think about dropping out of school, or was that
at that point? I was probably at the lowest point in my life, because I was at a point where I really did not care if I lived or died. I wanted to die.
Because of that experience?
Not just that, it was just like, you know, I felt like because my father was gone, I had no protection.
Right.
And then all these changes started taking place. I met my son's father. I was 14, he was 23. And I'm sorry.
It's okay.
He had made promises to me that, you know, as long as we were together, that no one would ever hurt me. And again, so for me, he was my security blanket.
Yeah. And you mentioned that this was the lowest point in your life, and so in the book you describe it as I repeatedly was sent back down there. I guess they were trying to teach me a lesson. I was afraid to be around any man at this age because of what he had done to me. My own mother couldn't protect me, and she gave birth to me. The one person in the whole world that I thought I had in my corner had betrayed me. After that, I just started living a reckless life because no one cared. So why should I care about myself? I wanted to die. So that really speaks to what you were going through at that point in time.
Yeah.
And this is the point where you just, what was your thought process now that you just couldn't, no one could protect you. You couldn't even protect yourself.
Yeah. Well, again, like I said, he made me feel safe.
So let me ask you, so you're feeling low now, and then you met him shortly after that.
Yes.
Okay. And became pregnant.
Long after that.
Not long after that.
Yes.
But in the book, you also mentioned that he taught you what you thought was survival at that time. And at that point, that was the time where that was the first time someone had probably taken the time to really teach you, you know, how to protect and take care of yourself. And you were still at a young age then. What did he share with you? What did he teach you in terms of what you thought was survival at that point in time?
There's so much. He taught me how do I put it? Become street smart, I guess, in a sense. I guess that's the only way to put it.
Yeah.
And how to be able to survive at my age in the streets, you know, being a single mom.
Yeah.
So he basically taught me the ropes of the streets and how to survive from that aspect. You know, so I started to run the streets really heavy.
Yeah.
Really, really heavy. I started doing drugs, alcohol, and I was just out there.
Yeah. Where was your mother during that time?
My mom worked second shift, and a lot of the things that I did, my mom didn't know
Yeah.
until actually here recently.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of things that my mom didn't know that she's just really finding out. And what I had to come to realize when I started to go through my own stuff myself,
Mm-hmm.
where I had once hated my mom and my father, I started to gain a new respect for her.
Mm-hmm.
When I started to go through the changes that I went through, I could feel her pain.
Right, because if you think about it, losing your dad was probably, just she was going through that pain too, right?
Yes.
So she had to deal with it on another level,
Correct.
right? So a lot of times, I think of them as generational curses
And
where
they are.
Yeah.
you find yourself doing the exact same thing,
Yeah.
that maybe your parent did for you.
Exactly.
So, when I read the book, I felt you lost your dad, but you probably lost a piece of your mom too, just in her dealing with the pain and her trying to
Yeah.
provide and working and, taking care. Do you have any siblings?
No.
No? Yeah.
I was
So,
only child.
but still working, going to school, taking care, she was probably doing the best
That's what
she could
knew
do
how to do.
at that point in time.
Correct.
And it's funny because I went to a Oprah Winfrey conference, the 2020 Vision Tour, and one of the things that stuck with me was the fact that she says people can only do what they have the capacity to do. They can only do what they have the capacity to do.
And that's what I had to come to realize
Yes.
about my own mom. Because when I would find myself in situations that I know my mom was in when she was raising me and, in her life and, just from things that she had told me when I was younger and all these things were happening to me and the stuff that I was doing, I didn't think about any of that. I didn't care about none of that.
Right.
At that point, all I know is I'm going through hell. I'm fighting these demons that I don't know how to fight. I'm having
As a
these
young
feelings.
girl.
Yes. And I want my mom to be right here to help me understand why I'm hurting like this, why am I feeling like this,
Right.
And why are these things happening back to back? And once I started going through it myself, I understood that she was only doing what she felt like she had to do
Exactly.
for me.
Exactly.
And it's something that I'm not afraid of, I'm not, but I'm proud of myself. Because now my mom and I have a relationship that we never had. I have a relationship now where I can talk to my mom. I feel like now that, and I'm still in therapy myself. But through the course of therapy and finding myself and going through a divorce and losing everything and starting over so many times, I understood her more.
Yeah. Is there anything you would need from her right now?
Just support.
Just support.
Just support.
Awesome. Awesome. And I think, with all of us, there's something that once we got older, once we had kids, we go back and we say, Mom was right.
Yeah.
I mean, she was right. And you find yourself actually repeating exactly what she said. In fact, you want to correct your voice so that it's exactly like what she said. So I get it. I get it. And because you guys were in two different spaces, right? And now that you're an adult and you're older, you can really understand, what was really going on and why. So
because for me, at that age, I didn't even know. I didn't understand And
Oh, you did it. So let's continue the spiral, because it still goes, and I think this is important so people really understand where you've come from.
yes,
So another item in the book talks about you being raped,
yes,
right? So I can't even imagine like everything that you've been through, and now because you're living a loose lifestyle, things happen. You find yourself in situations, you know,
Correct.
especially if you're drinking or
Yes.
doing drugs. You again, you can't protect yourself,
You
right? And in the book, you describe it so vividly in terms of the moment after, when you were standing at the door.
And the rain was
and the
pouring
rain
down.
was, I could so see that scene. After it's over, you're
Excuse me.
going back home, and you're standing in the rain, and you're soaking wet, and you just screaming inside, but nothing's coming out.
I just stood there, and honestly, I didn't even knock on the door. I don't even know how my mom even knew I was at the door.
Mm-hmm.
She came and opened the door, and I was just standing there in the rain, like, you know, and everything in me wanted to scream and just say,
Right.
Mama, I've been raped.
Yeah.
You know, because it
Why didn't you scream? In the book, there were times where you shut down at a certain point. I felt like you just, in your mind, you wanted to say something, but you didn't.
the incident with my mom's adopted father
Mm-hmm.
caused me to shut down a lot. You know, because I felt like, because so many of my family members had turned on me because I told the truth about what had happened, I just felt like there was no need for me to say anything.
Right.
You know, what was going to happen. I mean, what was going to make it different.
And at that, the moment when I read that in the book, I thought, you know, even when I was growing up, there were situations where this type of thing would happen, and people would sweep it under the rug. And I don't know if it was a generational thing, I don't know, but are people talking about that now? Because, you know, I know of people, family members who have gone through that as well. And same thing, you know, you just didn't talk about it. So,
You just don't. And it is a generational curse. And that's what I hope a lot of my readers and people who watch my interviews, I hope that's what they get from me. Because that's one thing that I try to get people to understand. Like, my nonprofit, Career Growth After Domestic Abuse, I want to go to the inner cities, and I really want to be in the low income areas. And I know that may sound a little crazy or whatever, but reason being is because a lot of the situations that these women find themselves in, a lot of it comes from generational curses, but from our ancestors, from their ancestors, and it trickles down, so trickle down effect. So here we are, we have the majority of our culture living in low income housing, and
so they're subject to those things happening
because it's
and
what they've
it's
seen,
inevitable,
and they think
yes.
that it's okay.
Wow. And so
It's
until
not.
you realize that it is what it is, a
Yeah.
generational curse, and you don't have to subject
Correct.
to it,
Yes.
then it just continues. It just,
Exactly.
Do you think, because I started thinking about this too, I'm telling you, the book took me in so many places, even questioning myself, and, you know, do I have friends who are going through and not, I don't even know it, you know? But after reading the book, I came to the conclusion that we are not products of our environment.
No, we're not.
We think we're products of our environment until we understand what you've learned, which is that you have to change. It's a thought process, right? It's in your way of thinking.
And let me just say this, I'm not cutting you off, but you grow up and you hear a lot of the older generation say, well, she's just like her daddy, or she was just like her mama, and she do everything just like, XYZ. And it gets stuck in your head, and you like, okay, so I must be just like such and such. So I'm just going to end up just like this. So there's no way for me to get out, because I'm just like such and such. No, that's not correct.
Right. It's a thought process.
It is.
It's a thought process change. Let's talk about the abuse. Right.
Okay.
So you find yourself going through relationship after relationship, trying to find that father figure that you need, and one of your relationships becomes abusive. Was it abusive starting out, or
it wasn't?
It wasn't abusive.
It wasn't
in the beginning.
It wasn't abusive in the beginning. Actually, in the beginning, I was engaged at that time to someone else, and we had a real bad argument, and actually had broken up. And with a relationship, you've been in a relationship that long, it could go either way. We were mad at each other, we had an argument, okay, so what, And when I met my 13-year-old's father, at that time, I was honest with him, because I didn't want either of them to be like I had put them in a situation that neither one of them knew about.
Right.
And I had told my son's father at that time, I was engaged, we had an argument, but it could go either way. But I want to be brutally honest with you. And at that time, he stood outside my car, we talked, we exchanged phone numbers or whatever. So it was about 3 months, maybe 4, after that, before he ever reached out to me. And when he finally did reach out to me, he came to see me. We talked, and everything went okay. We started to hang out and have fun. And he used to self-medicate a lot with marijuana. And he was diagnosed with bipolar and schizophrenia.
Gotcha.
And he made jokes about it, and me thinking, okay, this is, this man ain't crazy.
Right.
This is what I'm thinking. He's just joking. And the first time he ever hit me.
Did you love him? Did you love him?
I did.
You did?
I did. I loved him. No, I'm lying. I didn't love him.
You don't think so? Yeah.
I was vulnerable. I was alone. And I wanted some companionship.
Gotcha.
And that's how I ended up in the situation that I was in.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And when did he become abusive? How far into the relationship?
I was showing. I had to be about 3 or 4 months pregnant with our son. And he was about to go to jail. And he would go through these spells where he would shut himself off in different bedrooms. Just shut the door and just sit there all day. And what's wrong with this guy? Why he's sitting here? And then 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I'll be asleep and I might get punched in the face. There might be an argument. Whatever the case may be. It was like living with the devil himself.
Right. One of the scenes that you describe in here, I want to just read this to the audience because it'll kind of describe what you went through in depth. It says, I couldn't take it anymore. This time when he came back, the woman he was living with started taunting me about infidelity. He played puppet master between us. He kicked me in my stomach. I stumbled backwards and balled up in a fetal position because the wind was knocked out of me. He stood over me and was ready to beat me senseless. I begged and pleaded for him not to hit me. I thought my ribs were cracked. He dislocated my jaw. So it was that abusive. I mean, that was...
Girl,
you were pleading for your life at that point, right? It just got that bad, to be that bad.
More than one occasion.
Yeah.
You know.
When did you decide enough is enough? I mean,
The last fight we had in 2009.
What turned?
I had started praying 2 weeks prior. And I was just asking God, I said, God, please sever this relationship. I don't want to fight this man anymore. I've been to the police, tried to get restraining orders. I've done everything. So I'm just tired. I don't want to fight no man anymore. I don't want to go through this anymore. And my lights got turned off. And when my lights got turned off, I said, okay, God, I got it. I dropped them off. And from that day forward, we got evicted. The lights got turned off. I moved. And that was the end of it.
That was the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
But so it was the fact that you were just tired?
I was.
Was that the reason why?
It was draining because sometimes I'd be laying in my bed and he'll just come through the window.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime he felt like it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a never ending piece. It was a never ending, what do you call it? Like, it was demonic kind of in a sense because he would come through the window. One night in particular, he came through the window, he had bald his head, he was dressed in all black. And I know it was the Holy Spirit who woke me up because I didn't even hear him come in the house. And where my bed was setting, the window was here, my bed is here, so he had to cross over my bed to get to the light switch to turn the light on.
Mm-hmm.
And I woke up instantly. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And I knew he had came there to kill me. I felt it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's no way for me to live. My baby was little. I still had my 2 other children because I only had 3 children at that time. And I just knew we couldn't keep living like that. Like, who wants to live in an uproar all the time? Like, at that time I was working 12 hours, and it's like it was no rest.
So I listen to stories and read about stories like women in abusive relationships. A lot of times they think it's their fault. Did you ever think it was your fault?
I did. For sometimes I thought it was my fault because I felt like if I hadn't done this, or if I hadn't said this, or if I had just been quiet and just let it go, then we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my aunt kept telling me, she said, if you're going to stay with him, she said, you need to read up on his illness.
Right.
If you're going to stay there. And I'm like.
So you think it was all because of his illness that he became abusive?
No, I think it was his upbringing. Because that's what he saw.
Right, exactly. Oh, okay.
And I guess that was his. Well, no, I don't guess because he said to me that, in relationships, this is what you do. Mm-hmm. You argue, you fight.
Gotcha. So at this point, what you really have to understand, and I want everyone to hear this, is again, your environment that you're in can be destructive. It can be. That does not mean this is what you need to be. It's not what God maybe has purposed you to. So as soon as you figure out the difference between your environment and what you were brought up in, and the power in which God has given you in terms of purpose and who he created, how he created you, and what he created you to do, I think that's the line.
Yes.
So as soon as you can cross that line to understand that, the better off you are. Right. Yeah, because even in his relationship, in his upbringing, he's only doing what he was taught to do. So I think that there's a definite lesson to be learned there.
Yes.
And so what I was going to say, a lot of times they tell you, have a plan. What is your plan? You can't, if you want to leave, because there were times when you left and found yourself go back. And a lot of things tied and connected to it. But at the end of the day, how did you exit that relationship? You had a thought about going to serve in the Army.
I did. Like I said, I had prayed for 2 weeks straight for God to sever the relationships. And like I said, after the lights got cut off, I left him. I just wanted to do something different. I just realized that in order for my life to change, I had to do something different. So I started the process of going into the military because I knew the way my children and I were living, that wasn't normal. You know, I had to do something different to get us out of the environment that we were in.
Right.
You know.
And so for you, it was signing up and going through the
Just
training and just
leave.
going on, because that's a big deal. I mean, that's a big deal, knowing that you may be deployed to.
And I was.
Yeah. So you talk about that too, and this was the part that really, I mean, I bawled at the fact that when you decided to leave, you decided that you were going to go and serve your country, and you're through training. I think you had gotten through training, everything's good, and then you find yourself at a clinic, right?
This was right before I left.
This is right before. So this is right before you left to go
to basic
training.
Yes.
And so everything's fine. Your bags are packed. You're ready to go. And then I'm going to read this one too, because this was one that I wanted to share. I think if I can find it. Okay, so she's in the doctor's office now, and you wrote, "The doctor was holding on to the screen while I was trying to find the heartbeat. Before he knew what had taken place, I caught the glimpse of the screen. When he saw that I could see the screen, he quickly moved the screen out of my view, and the nurse tried her best to console me. As a mother of 3 other children, I could feel my baby's heartbeat already. The stream of tears flooded my eyes, making it hard to see. I began to cry uncontrollably. Father, please forgive me." So at this point, you found out that you're pregnant again, and this would stop the plan that you had. So you had to make a quick decision, a hard and quick decision. And here's what got me, because I read it. It would be different if you had not had kids before. But to have kids and to have to make that decision after having kids, after seeing them run, I just thought, how strong. I don't know if it's right, I don't know if it's wrong, but you made that decision. And that was the best decision for you at that time. And that's what's important. How did you find the strength to make that decision?
I walked out of the clinic that day and I looked at my 3 boys and I had to man up. I had to look at them. I had made them a promise that I was going away to the Army, but I would be back. I mean, going to basic training, but I would be back to get them. We were going to start our life over. So I knew that, and to some it may seem like, well, you've taken care of 3 children, you struggled, you took care of them, you could have took care of another one. Not that easy. Because I had struggled so much with the 3 I already had. You know, like I felt like it was unfair, one, to bring another child in the world knowing that I didn't have the income to raise the 3 I already had. It would be unfair to them and to the baby to come into this world and not be properly cared for. 2, it was by my son's father, my abuser. And I knew that had I had this baby, I would never be free of him. I mean, I knew that with my now 13-year-old child, we'll always be mother and father to him, but it's not like we have to be in a direct relationship with each other.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, yeah.
And if I had gave birth to this baby, I would have been putting him or her in the same situation that my 3 children that are already here, putting the baby back through the same thing over again.
Yeah. I felt that was probably the hardest decision
And it was.
you had to make. But the beauty in it was the fact that you knew whatever happened, God would take care of that child. And I felt that in the book. So,
and that was one of my prayers when I was laying on the examination table. And the nurse, I have to tell that the part about the nurse. She was an angel. And I didn't realize it when I was having the procedure done. Because I was laying there and I was crying, and all I kept saying was, Lord, please forgive me. Please forgive me, God. Take care of my baby. And July is really hard for me because that would have been the month that my baby would have been born. But I remember laying there asking God to please forgive me. Because nobody even knew except from one of my close friends and myself. And the nurse held me in her arms and she told me, she said, baby, he already has.
that's the beauty of God, right?
But when I left going to basic training, she wrote me, she sent me scriptures.
And that was the first time you met her.
Yes.
Wow.
But I haven't been able to find her.
Yeah.
I even went back to the abortion clinic that I had the procedure done at.
Wasn't there?
They told me they never had anyone there by that name before.
Wow.
So I wanted to thank her because even though I knew what I was doing was wrong, I felt like I was wrong in God's eyes. He still sent me a protector.
Right. Right. And I think that's going to be the piece that you'll carry forward with you.
Yeah.
Is that would give you a sense of peace.
Yes.
But you did it.
Yeah.
You got through it.
Mm-hmm.
You survived. You survived all odds, and now you're in the Army. You're serving your country, and you came back a different person than you were. So can you sum up what changed in you from the moment you left to the moment you came back? What was the change? What would you tell people who are going through some of the things that you're going through?
Well, first of all, the change that was in me, it built me up as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
It made me stronger. It built my self-confidence, my self-worth. And when I went to Afghanistan and came back, I just had this big S on my chest because I felt like if God took me over here for 9 months and brought me back home, no missing limbs, no, nothing missing, nothing broken, anything. He brought me back home to my children the way that I left.
Mm-hmm.
If I could go for 9 months and have to leave my children, and my son he quit school to take care of his younger brothers while deployed. If I could do that and God would bring me back safely, there's nothing in this world that I can't accomplish.
Right.
Nothing that I can't accomplish.
So in a sense, it was really just being stripped from your environment.
Everything.
And you was forced to be with you.
Yes.
And forced to be with you alone. Nothing else but you and God.
And my mom told me that before I left going to Afghanistan. She said, Adriene, you've been running from God for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
She said, but he has you in a place where you're going to run smack into him.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, whatever. She was saying this for like
so
forever. And I'm trying to focus on like, I'm ready to go to war. Like, this is my first time ever doing this. Like, I'm leaving my kids. I mean, I'm just being honest.
Scared.
I ain't thinking nothing about the Lord at this point.
Right.
I did have my Bible.
Right.
I did have my Bible. But I was not. I was like, she don't understand. Like, do she realize like,
what I'm about to do? I know.
Yeah.
I know, because you talk about just hearing the bombs and hearing things that you just imagine. You've never been in such a place where this is real life and death situations, you know. And so you describe that so vividly in the book as well. Just you know, a lot of times your loneliness when you were at home was parallel to the loneliness that you felt over there, right?
Correct.
Except this time you were forced to really, you know, be with yourself and to listen for that voice.
Yes.
And he brought you through that, and you came back with, like you say, an S on your chest. So now I can conquer the world. And could you tell us about your nonprofit organization that you started and what that's for? The career growth.
Okay. Career growth.
She has two. That's why she paused.
You have to. Career growth after domestic abuse. It was created for victims and survivors of domestic abuse. And I want to take everything that God has put inside of me that got me to where I am in my life right now. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to pour that into other women and share the best parts of me to help them become the best part of them. And it has just like so many doors have opened, like, oh my God, like it was like I met with someone this week and I was just like, I was nervous.
Yeah.
You know, because
you make one step, he makes two, right?
Yes.
So it's really true when you start to walk in that purpose. And
correct.
One of the reasons why I do what I do is so people can see you, can see where you've been, where you're going,
yes.
and all through purpose. So it can happen, and once you take that first step, you can. God will make two for you. So
yes.
How can people donate to your organization if they?
You can donate to my organization. I have my website is adrienestreeter.com. You can donate through there. I also have PayPal set up through Career Growth After Domestic Abuse. You can donate through there. Just my website and PayPal, Career Growth After Domestic Abuse.
And how can they find a copy of your book, The Making of a Soldier, which is awesome. You gotta get this book if you are going through anything. This is a true testimony. So where can they find this?
You can find my book on Amazon. It's on Amazon and it's on Kindle. But for you all, I have them with me. And also when I do speaking engagements or interviews, whatever the case may be, most of the time I have books on hand. So you can either get them from me, purchase them from me personally. And again, my email address is Adriene Streeter, AdrienneStreeter @gmail.com. You can reach out to me through email and you can buy the book through me. I can ship them myself, or you can go to Kindle. It's on Kindle, and it's also, like I said again, on Amazon.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So last words. Your story is amazing to me.
Thank you so much.
I can't say I could have gotten through that as you did with grace and with faith. So what would your last words to women or to your audience or to people just about becoming a soldier over their own circumstances?
I would say take everything, the hurt, pain, the scars, anything in your life that has been traumatic to you or bad situations that you find yourself in, take all of that and ball it all up and use it as your strength. Don't allow it to overcome you to the point where you just cannot do anything. Use it as a fighting force to become better than you were before anything ever happened. You know, and never ever feel like you can't get out, there's no way out. There is help and there is hope. You know, and never be afraid to tell your story. Never be afraid to tell your story. Be honest with yourself on your stuff, on your part of the stuff that has taken place, because that was, for me, that was vital.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, when I was in Afghanistan, it was just me.
Right.
And I had to face a lot of the things that, you know, I had to eat a lot of stuff. You know, I had to own the fact that I had put my children through turmoil because of the decisions that I made, because I was selfish and that's what I wanted. But today I can sit here and I can own that and say it's my fault that my children were hurting because I made this decision. Mm-hmm. But own your stuff, and there's no real growth without true transparency. If you're not going to be transparent, if you're not going to tell the truth, be authentic about everything, and just free yourself from it and continue to live and strive to be better than you were before anything ever happened to you.
Adriene, Odom, everybody.
Woo!